Dear Mother. I don't know when you'll read this. I don't know if you will at all.
Every man crossing the channel that night was given the same order, quietly, almost as an afterthought.
Write home if you want to. One letter. Tonight.
Nobody said why it had to be tonight. Nobody had to. By nightfall on June 5, 1944, over 5,000 vessels sat off the English coast, carrying more than 150,000 men toward a 50-mile stretch of French coastline most of them had never heard of before that week. It was, and still is, the largest seaborne invasion in human history, but inside that number are 150,000 individual hands, holding 150,000 individual pencils, trying to find a way to say goodbye without saying the word.
I want you to know I'm not scared. That's a lie, actually. I am. But I wanted to write it down anyway, because I think being scared and doing it anyway is maybe the only kind of brave that's real.
For 4 years, Hitler's Atlantic Wall had turned this coastline into the most heavily defended stretch of beach on Earth, concrete bunkers, machine gun nests with overlapping fields of fire, obstacles designed specifically to gut landing craft at low tide. The Allies had spent 2 years planning a single afternoon. Weather had already delayed it once. General Eisenhower had 2 speeches in his coat pocket that week, one for victory, one for failure, in case the invasion collapsed on the sand before it began. He never had to read the second one out loud. But he wrote it anyway. Because that's what you do, the night before something you can't take back, you prepare for the worst, and you write down the truth in case you're not there to say it yourself.
We're moving now. I can hear the engines under my boots. Funny thing to notice, isn't it? I'm about to walk into a war and I'm thinking about how loud the floor is.
The crossing took hours. For many units, hours of vomiting into helmets in 6-foot swells, weighed down by 80 pounds of gear that would drown a man in seconds if his craft went down first. Some never made it to the beach at all, sunk by mines, by rough seas, before a single German gun had even fired. This is the part the movies skip. The dying that happened before the fighting even started.
Tell Danny he can have my fishing rod. Tell him I said use the good line, not the cheap one in the shed. He'll know which.
It's the smallest details that undo you in these letters. Not declarations of love, those come too. But it's the fishing rod. The specific line. A boy thinking about his little brother's tackle box in the last steady minutes of his life. Ahead of them, Omaha Beach. Behind them, everything they knew. In between, about 400 yards of open sand, and men who had trained for years to kill anyone who crossed it. The ramps dropped at 6:30 a.m. Some men were cut down before their boots touched water. Others swam, dragged by packs that should have been dropped and weren't, because dropping your pack felt like admitting you might not need it again. Of the first wave to hit Omaha Beach, entire companies suffered casualty rates over 60% within the first half hour. He never finished that sentence. Not because we're being dramatic.
If you're reading this.
Because that's how the real letters end, mid-thought, mid-promise, folded and put away because there wasn't time to finish, and there was never a version of that morning where finishing it was guaranteed. Somewhere in the National Archives, in the Canadian War Museum, in shoeboxes and attics across 3 continents, letters like this one still exist. Some finished, some not. Some arrived at a farmhouse door weeks after a telegram had already arrived first, which meant a mother read her son's handwriting already knowing how the story ended. Some of those letters carry stains historians won't describe too closely in the exhibit placards. You don't have to ask what they are. You already know. This is what history actually is, underneath the maps and the troop movements and the dates we memorize in school. It's paper that somebody's hand touched for the last time. It's a sentence that never got to end. Omaha Beach today is quiet. Grass grows over what used to be gun emplacements. Families picnic where landing craft once burned. It is, by every visible measure, at peace. That peace was paid for one letter at a time. One fishing rod, one unfinished sentence, one 19-year-old's handwriting, multiplied by tens of thousands, on a beach most of them had never seen before and many never left. We don't know if Thomas Hale is any one person who was really there. He's built from 100 men who were. That's the only kind of honesty this story can offer, that this happened, again and again, to people with names we mostly never learned. The pages survived. That's the part that should stay with you longer than the beach did. This is where history bleeds through the pages.
Thanks for watching.